Dr. Brett Jenkins.
Hi, how are you going?
I'm well. CEO of Newcastle Innovation.
That's right.
Tell us what Newcastle Innovation does.
Okay, well, Newcastle Innovation sits between the university and essentially business or the economy, and we provide two opportunities for business. One is that we capture new technologies or new inventions that are developed by researchers at the university, and then look for partners to take them to market. The second thing we do is we engage with industry to identify technology problems they may have, and then try and bring capabilities that the university has to address those problems.
Mm-hmm. In 5 years, you've been there about 5 years?
Over 5 years. I think this is my 6th year. So.
6th year? Congratulations.
Yeah.
What's changed in that time? How's it evolved?
Well, there's a number of things both internally and externally. For example, the university has a brand new Vice-Chancellor, which is essentially the CEO of the university, and she's brought a sort of renewed push and an enthusiasm towards innovation. So, for example, the university now has an explicit research and innovation strategy. So that really means that we sit within a broader framework now in terms of what the university wants to achieve, particularly on a regional area. Mm-hmm. Over the last 5 years, it's been really tough in terms of the external environment. We've gone through a global financial crisis, and we're still experiencing that. I think money is always tight for early stage technology. So reality is it hasn't changed too much. It's a tough game.
Is there an understanding in industry of how they should engage with the university, do you think?
It varies. I think the larger the company, the more sophisticated they are in terms of how they address their technology needs. For example, large mining companies look globally for their source their technologies. In fact, the mining industry buys a lot of its capital and buys a lot of its technology in rather than doing R&D. That said, we do some work in minerals processing that's very new and innovative. Small to medium enterprises struggle, I think, in terms of getting their head around how does technology fit within a broader strategy, and it's part of our mandate to engage with and educate particularly local businesses and through, for example, through entities like HunterNet, which we're a member. We try and build an understanding what technology can bring to a company. So.
And they're enthusiasts. Well, HunterNet is, but their members are kind of unified by wanting to move forward and develop ideas, I would have thought.
I think so. There's we are an innovative region. Innovation occurs at many levels within the company, from the just how to change a process on the factory floor to be innovative in how you go to market. And I think it's the challenge for those small companies is really to find some space in their time and to really step out of the business and think more strategically.
So should they come, or the path that they should get to you through, which is the most effective way for them to come to the university?
Well, it's always good to talk to us first because we can help navigate through their issues. I think they need to really have defined what's the question they need answered, and helping to frame that question is quite important. So we can help do that. I've had a background in consulting, so I can sort of work with a company to help really hone that question, because you have to define a project around answering that question. So if the question's vague, it's really difficult then to sort of define a project and deliver against that. And
you've got a strong team of business managers who help in that? Or
that's right. That's one of the great things about the last 5 years. We've actually been able to grow our team. It's a little bit of a chicken and the egg. We like to have the revenue to support the new staff, but you need staff to go out and find opportunities. So in the time that I've been CEO, we've gone from 2 business development managers to 6. And that allows us not only to be more externally focused, but also to have the resources to engage more deeply with the researchers in the university and in fact understand their research more. So 3 of the new people we've brought on have PhDs, so it allows them to really get a more deeper understanding of the research and therefore what it can bring potentially to industry when it's applied.
And we've got in the Hunter a pretty solid intellectual property support group and professionals as well, I think.
That's right. Well, you need a range of professionals, and our strategy is not to have those on staff. We like to run really lean, so we have partners in legal partners, accounting partners, and also IP partners that help us with each opportunity, and each of the, particularly the IP firms, have specialities. So we'll use one firm for health technologies and one for mining, for example.
And they are two quite distinct strengths, health and mining. Can we talk a bit about health?
Well, the university was one of the of sort of the newer universities, one of the first to actually develop a health presence and a health faculty. And it actually started off, before it brought students in, it had a research focus. So it's been a health faculty that's had many years of good research and has built up a capability over time. Its focus areas are things like asthma, cancer, mental health. I'm probably missing out, reproductive science. So with technologies, there's a global market for technology, and you have to be globally competitive. And I think the university is recognising that to invest in core areas that will have world renown, not only to actually build the university's reputation, get very good papers published, but also to attract industry, because we're known around the world for these areas.
How important is it that the Vice Chancellor now has created this extra momentum for you?
I think it's always, new CEOs bring a new energy, and I think I brought that when I joined Newcastle Innovation a few years ago. And I think it's going to help align the organisation towards innovation. We've been pushing the barrow for a long time, but I think with a broader alignment of the university towards its recognition that it wants to be seen to be a leader in innovation in the region, will give us probably more support and resources, hopefully.
If you had to give a tip to a company who is thinking about how do they make the next step, what would that tip be?
Well, I think the first thing is understand your business and understand strategically where you want to go. I think there's a lot of people at the moment very busy. The market's quite good, particularly local manufacturing companies I'm thinking of, that there's no real need to think long term. But I think one is to think about, well, how are the competitive forces going to play out in the future? Where do you want to position yourself? Think strategically about a range of options to do that, and where having innovative, protected and unique IP and capability might help you in that. So I know that there are a number of people in the region that sort of can help companies do that. And I think having an attitude to risk, because developing a new technology from scratch, or even taking one that's proved itself in the lab but needs to be scaled up, there's still technology risk in doing that. It may not work in the real world, and clearly, there's a lot of technologies that are good, technical successes but market failures. So it's really understanding what the market needs and how your offer is going to fit into that.
Take this in the way it's meant. You're a bunch of boffins. If I'm a manufacturer and I want to get into a cluster and talk with other manufacturers who have maybe been through this, is that kind of therapy group available? Well,
there is, and as I mentioned, HunterNet's a great group for that sort of engineering manufacturing area. I know on the Central Coast there's a new project, Central Coast Innovation Project, that's really about clusters. Now you can be innovative within a company, but also look to find ways that companies can work together, perhaps defining themselves as a range of capabilities that it's not just one company, but there's a suite of companies that do different things and they can work together collaboratively to actually achieve something a little bit bigger. I think there's a lot of options for that in the Hunter. We're seeing it in the Central Coast, and I think there's lessons.
Is there a core in the Central Coast that we should be aware of?
Well, one of those I think that's really interesting is the music industry. We know people like Casey Chambers and others that are based there, but there's a large capability in recording, production, and I think there's a push to actually raise the profile of that and attract more resources. I think I may have referred it to the Nashville of the South Pacific or something like that. But
we don't mind that.
No, but that's really some of the options, is to raise the industry profile and hopefully creates opportunities for players.
It is about talking, though. I guess that's what I'm getting at, Brett. It is about saying we are here and we can talk to you.
That's right, and I think
without obligation.
Yes, that's right. There's no obligation, and I think we've seen it with HunterNet, with the Central Coast Innovation Project. When people get together as a region, we can really raise the profile and attract opportunity here. It's about attracting investment. I think one of the areas where the region does lack is in venture capital. It's really money, and particularly money that's at risk, is really what drives new innovation through technology, and that's one of the challenges we have. We've got to look globally for partners and globally for finance. So that adds to our challenge.
Let's talk about some examples of companies that have come through your doors.
Well, there's a couple of so there's a range of possible examples. Now, one area that we've been working on for quite a while is in a medical device, and it's a portable infusion device which will allow someone to leave hospital early and allow very accurate dispensing of their antibiotic or other medicines. Now, this has been in the pipeline for about 10 years. It probably 2 or 3 years ago received not only some new investment, but also a CEO that brought an experience and an energy. People is so critical to this game. So when you've got opportunity, resources, money, and a CEO to drive it, that's when you really got success. So this company is now established on the Central Coast at Morisset. It's got a capacity to supply hospitals up and down the East Coast, but also the technology can be applied perhaps into emergency or military applications where you want a portable, robust, and a very low-cost way of treating people. So that's a technology that's emanated from the university in partnership with a local company, local investors. So we sort of bootstrapped that up from the ground up. Other examples are in the mining technology. We've had a long-standing relationship with a company called Ludovici, who's a mining services company, global company. We've been able to get technologies into the market for a long-standing partnership there. So you really need to think about proving the concept, I think, first, and then looking to what's your global path to market, because we've really got to think globally for all these products. So there's a lot of good news stories, but there's a lot of things that fall away. They don't prove themselves from a technology perspective. We can't attract the right partners or the right investment to take them forward. So I think in our game you've got to stay optimistic, but you also got to be realistic that you've got to get to a point where you've given a technology its best chance, and then you say, okay, well we'll move on to the next one.
Steve Jobs used to say, "You fail quickly."
Yes. Yes.
And there's a challenge to do that.
That's
too.
right.
And the better informed you are.
Well, that's right. We have processes and quality staff now that can actually do that assessment quickly, and then we give it a chance to prove itself. And for example, we get 40 new inventions each year, and so you can think about, and there's a pipeline of those coming through. Some of which fail quite early. Some of them are sort of mature technologies that are actually in listed Australian companies that are going through phase 2 clinical trials. So there's a range of things that we get involved in.
And if we look at the other end of that, the Founders Forum is really the consummation of the idea, isn't it?
Well, that's great. The Founders Forum have brought together enthusiastic enthusiastic people with connections to resources to actually take technologies or companies forward. I think there's a bias in the Founders Forum towards probably more mature opportunities than we generally see on a day-to-day basis. So they'll be already companies established rather than new technologies. But it's great to have a forum where you can talk about what you're doing and meet an enthusiastic audience. And I know there's been a number of investments made in small companies that have really then gone on to do bigger and better things. So I like to call it an ecosystem. We need an ecosystem in the region that has access to skills. So again, skilled CEOs that have gone through the commercialisation process, access to money and support, and
the demands, because often the innovator and the inventor is quite a bit removed from the commercialisation side.
Well, our inventors are academics at the university, so there's a balance of using their technical skills to the max, but also then bringing in the right commercial skills. And our team, there's several of us that have MBAs, and there's also some that aren't deep technical, they're more commercial. So I think we have a range of skills to be able to study the technology in depth, but also then bring a real commercial focus to it.
So the message or the opportunity is if there are business people out there with an eye on evolution and creativity, they should be talking to you early on.
That's right. If we've seen it in the sort of the health biotech boom 20 years ago. There's lots of opportunities to invest in early stage technologies. I think you have to have a good program around how you manage risk and take a portfolio approach. But we're seeing a lot of wealth generated in mining and minerals processing now. There's a lot of new technologies in that space that I'd like to sort of see some of the excess funds come back and support the next generation of technologies coming through.
We support your portfolio development.
Thank you.
Okay.